actually do pronounce the. Blah, 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 blah. Please up, fill out a green card. I am supposed to hold up a green card. Hey, look, there's a green card. Blah, 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 blah. Many volunteers, faith formation, Megan Jones, Susan Petersmith, Bill Hart, Lou and Peyton, because Alwyn abandoned them.
I couldn't see Peyton.
Okay, hopefully that will suffice.
Is there only one reading? The story of Joanne and the school bus.
Yeah.
Let's see.
My computer won't turn on. So I didn't get a chance to print it. I'm gonna
Nope.
receive card.
Okay. Is there only one reading?
Various members of the Wilcox family at various times. Because Nash has joined.
I guess there's only one reading. That's fine.
Good morning. To all who are here in the sanctuary or connecting with us through technology or watching this after the fact, I welcome you to People's Church. My name is Robin Miesler-Kubinik, and my pronouns are she, her. I serve as the Board of Trustees president this year, and today is worship. Sorry, try that again. Today, worship is led by our minister, Reverend Carin Bringelson, with worship associate Emily Hazelton. Our director of faith formation is Celeste Downs, who is also up here, Judy Michelin on the piano, Matt Wild on internet outreach, and our special musicians, Pete Keys, Deb Honeymuller, I tried so hard, and Dave Wallace. All people of goodwill are welcome here at People's Church. As an official welcoming congregation, we celebrate and honor your sexual orientation, gender expression, gender identity, as well as race, ethnicity, and cultural background. We also celebrate and honor journeys with faith and doubt, comfort and discomfort with money, bodies of all sizes and shapes, abilities and disabilities seen and unseen, age and generational perspectives, and so much more. Whoever you are accepted just exactly as you are. A special welcome goes out to any newcomer joining worship today. Thank you for coming out on this wonderfully chilly morning. If you would like to be added to our mailing list, please contact the church office, or if you're here in person, you can fill out a green card that you should be able to find in the pew rack in front of you and put it in the offering plate as it gets passed later in the service. Online participants are welcome to chat with everyone gathered on Zoom following today's worship, and in-person participants are invited for coffee and conversation in the lower level following our worship today. If you have an order of service, please look at the back and consider if there's something you'd like to get involved with here at this vibrant congregation. Of special note is that the social justice team is continuing to host Sunday morning forums about the book Authentic Selves through the rest of the month at least. All are invited to participate in person next Sunday at 9:30 a.m. And finally, we extend a great big thank you to the many volunteers who make today's gathering possible. Thank you to the Faith Formation volunteers, Megan Jones and Susan Petersmith and Megan Murphy Salyer. We have Bill Hart on the sound system, greeters, various members of the Wilcox family at various times, and to the kitchen crew headed by Jill Jones. With a sense of gratefulness for this time of being together, I invite you into a moment of awareness, which will begin and end with the ringing of our singing bowl.
Old pirates, yes, they rob I, sold I to the merchant ships. Minutes after they took I from the bottomless pit, but my hand was made strong by the hand of the Almighty. We forward this generation triumphantly. Won't you help to sing these songs of freedom? 'Cause all I ever had, redemption songs, the songs of freedom. Emancipate yourself from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our minds. Have no fear of atomic energy, 'cause none of them can stop the time. How long shall they kill our prophets while we stand aside and look? Some say it's just a part of it. We got to fulfill the book. Won't you help to sing these songs of freedom? 'Cause all I ever had, redemption songs, songs of freedom. Emancipate yourself from mental slavery, and none but ourselves can free our minds. Fear not renewable energy, 'cause none of them can stop at a time. How long shall they kill our prophets while we stand aside and look? Some say it's just a part of it. Got to fulfill the book. Won't you help to sing these songs of freedom? 'Cause all I ever had, redemption songs, songs of freedom, redemption songs, the songs of freedom.
Thank you. Let us wake up, not just from the Sunday morning exhaustion, from the wish for a few more drowsy minutes in a warm bed. Let us wake up to this world we live in, to its beauty and wonder, and also to its tragedy and pain. We must wake up to this reality, that not all in our world have what we do, however much or little that is. We must wake up to the idea that our wholeness, our lives, are only as complete as the lives of those around us, of those we are inextricably tied to in a great web of mutuality, of which all of us are a part. We must stay woke, in the words of our friends and colleagues imbibed in the Black Lives Matter, working every day for racial justice in our country. Let us wake up, let us stay awake, let us stay woke. And now, in this time and place, let us worship together. I invite those of you online to light a chalice nearby or hold a warm intention in your heart as I begin by stating that the flame that brings to life the symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith is held in a chalice made from stories. Stories that we tell about ourselves and the stories of the gentle, bold, and steadfast souls who came before us. As Peyton comes forward, I invite all those who are willing and able to please join in reading aloud the rest of our chalice lighting words. As together we say, as we light this chalice, may we remember that our history is still being written. Lost stories that shaped us are still being found, still being added to the richness we share, and we will pass them along to the generations who follow.
All those who wish to are invited to join me in saying the words of affirmation of this church. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Now, for our gathering hymn, I invite you to lift your voices in song. You are welcome to rise in body or spirit, number 1011 in your teal hymnal.
And this is one that apparently we haven't done together before, so we're going to sing those first 2 lines twice, and then we're going to sing the next 4 lines twice, and then we're going to go back, return again to the first 2 lines, and we'll just sing that once. So it's, if you have a hymnal and you know how to read this, the repeat signs, we're going to follow that.
Okay.
Otherwise, follow us. Return again, return again, return to the home of your soul. Return again, return again, return to the home of your soul. Return to who you are, return to what you are, return to where you are, born and reborn again. Return to who you are, return to what you are, return to where you are, born and reborn again. Return again, return again, return to the home of your soul. You may be seated. And if you would like to come forward because you like to move your bodies and you want to hear a story with Ms. Celeste, I invite you to march forward today because we are reading a story from this book called Marching for Freedom. So let's see some marchers. Come on up.
Sitting or standing?
We are sitting, I think. What
Yes,
do you think,
we are
Ms. Celeste?
sitting.
Okay.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. All
Hi, Miss
right.
Celeste.
Hi, Max. How are you?
Good.
Okay. So today we are reading a story called Joanne and the School Bus. Have any of you ever ridden a school bus?
Yeah, no.
Yeah. Where did it take you?
Oh yeah, I have been. One time a school bus took me to the movie theater.
To the movie theater.
Like on field trips.
Oh. All right, well, this story is about a 10-year-old girl named Joanne and the first time she rode a school bus when it took her to, well, let me explain some things first. This story took place a long time ago, but also pretty recently. Joanne was living in the 1960s, which was about 60 years ago.
That's a long time ago.
That's a long time ago, but also not that long ago. This is a true story.
It's a true
That's a
story
good
about
question.
60 years ago.
Who was 60?
Listen,
All right, this story took place a long way away, but also pretty close. It took place in Selma, Alabama, which is about 13 hours away from us. Way back then, way over there, the white people in charge of Selma in the 1960s did not want black people to vote. There it is. All right. Sorry, technical difficulties, everybody. Why do you think people with official power would want to stop non-official people from voting and participating? Because they don't like them?
Because there's different laws, or maybe they would want to be in charge to do something.
They would want to be in charge to do
Different
something.
what? What'd she say?
Can you say it again, Ollie?
Different laws, did you say? Yeah. I think because people in charge like to stay in charge sometimes, and they don't want to share power.
Yeah. So way back then, way over there, the rules that black people had to follow to get registered to vote were, in my opinion, outlandish and ridiculous. Things like interpret the U.S. and state constitution to the satisfaction of the registrar, which is like the person who is signing you up to vote. Listen to the registrar reading aloud sections of the Constitution for 10 minutes and then write it down from memory. Spell words like turpitude, interdepartmental, recognizance. One mistake and you're out. I know I can't spell those words. I even heard one question that was, how many bubbles are there in a bar of soap? Has anybody had to answer those questions when they registered to vote? No, those are crazy. How easy do you think these tests were? Do you think the white people had to take these tests?
Yeah.
No. Well, remember Joanne? So way back then, way over there, one morning she left her apartment with her grandmother, Miss Sylvia Johnson. Together they walked to downtown Selma so that her grandmother could register to vote, or at least try to register to vote. It was about 6 blocks between their home and the Dallas County Courthouse, where people would try to get registered. Oh, come back. Because they were scared of marching? Is that what you said?
That's hilarious. Yeah.
Right when Joanne and her grandma climbed to the top of the green marble steps of that official county courthouse, a white lady rushed to the glass door and slapped up a sign, "Closed for lunch." She threw the lock shut and then stood glaring at them from the other side of the glass. Joanne's first reaction was surprised. She did not know that white people ate lunch so early. But her grandmother understood immediately what the sign and the woman meant. They were not welcome. They did not head back home, though. The courthouse only allowed voter registration 2 days a month, and Mrs. Johnson was not about to give up so easily. As they stood quietly outside the courthouse, they were joined by other applicants, all of them dressed in their Sunday best. Hours crept slowly by. More people arrived, but that sign did not come down. No one even left the line to go to the bathroom or get a drink of water. Finally, 2 yellow school buses rumbled up, and the sheriff and his deputies ordered everyone on. What do you think they were doing with the school buses? Where do you think they were going?
To nowhere?
To nowhere. To jail?
To a parkway this way? To parkway?
Let's find out.
To the desert.
To the desert? That's a good guess. Joanne was happy to climb the deep stairs into the bus. Only white kids got to ride the school bus. She had never been inside one. It wasn't until they pulled up in front of the city jail that she realized they were all under arrest. And so that's the story of Joanne and the school bus, which took her to jail. And that's what happened way back then, way over there. But I have a surprise for you. What happened way back then, way over there, is actually related to what we do right now and right here. Sometimes we take actions for what is right because we know it will make things more fair for people in the future. As we listen to more stories today, I invite you to think about what you would do to make the world a better place. The end.
Thanks, Miss Celeste.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye, Ollie. Okay, you can go back to your seats now.
As Unitarian Universalists, one of the shared values we hold is that of justice, which means that we work to be diverse, multicultural, beloved communities where all thrive. It also means that we covenant to dismantle racism and all forms of systematic oppression, and we support the use of inclusive democratic processes to make decisions within our congregations, our association, and society at large. Our living tradition draws inspiration from direct experiences of transcending mystery and wonder, as well as from sacred, secular, and scientific understandings that help us make meaning and live by our values. One such source of inspiration is a story told in the book, The Selma Awakening, written by UU minister and historian Reverend Mark Morrison Reed. A couple of notes. First, many of the resources used to prepare for today's service use a racial slur that we will not be using. Secondly, this story comes from Irene Murdoch, who was the administrative assistant to the president of the Unitarian Universalist Association back in 1965. Irene Murdoch's story captures some of the power of the experience of marching to the Dallas County Courthouse back on March 15th, 1965. I was toward the end of the procession and found myself walking beside a black woman with a little girl. We each held the child's hand and swung her between us from time to time, the way you do with small children. As we walked through the streets, we saw the sidewalks lined with men and women with ugly faces and angry expressions. They shouted obscenities at us. At one point, someone singled me out to say, "If you love that N-word baby so much, why don't you take her home with you?" I held the little girl's hand a little tighter, and I held my head a little higher, and I walked. We approached the courthouse and stood quietly near the back of the crowd, waiting for the program to begin. Suddenly, a car behind us backfired. In a flash, the little girl was up in the woman's arms. "Oh, Mama," she cried, "they're going to get us." "No, they ain't going to get us," said the woman reassuringly. "And anyway, they'd have to get to me first." I never knew the little girl's name, but I shall never forget her. She taught me a very important lesson. It was she who made me understand who I was and what I was doing. Now I knew all along that my trip to Selma placed me in some danger, but never was it so clear to me as at that moment. I could have been shot, or beaten, or killed. It was quite possible, but it was more likely that I would spend a few days there and would sing some freedom songs and join protest marches. And I would be proud to stand up and be counted and offer my presence to bear witness. And then I would leave that terrible scene and its frightening atmosphere and go home safely. But those people who lived there had to endure this awful struggle day after day. And little children like my little girl were growing up in constant fear and terror. Here ends the reading. That constant fear and terror is what moved civil rights activists to sing freedom songs, because singing together can bring hope and fortitude. One of those freedom songs became the anthem for the movement, and it is the one we will sing together now. I now invite all to rise in body and or spirit to sing together hymn number 169, "We Shall Overcome," in the gray hymnal. We shall overcome. We shall overcome someday. we shall live in peace someday.
I want to start by thanking the archives team of People's Church. They were instrumental in pointing me in the right direction for the story of People's Church that we're going to share today. And they gave me a lot of resources, so thank you, archives team. Now, have you heard the story about the Unitarian Universalist minister who went to Selma, Alabama, to bear witness to tragic injustices, knowing that moral injustices must be answered with collective action? On Sunday, March 21st, 1965, the Reverend Walter Kellison, the minister of this People's Church, likely stood behind this very pulpit and delivered his sermon entitled James Reeb and Selma. He began his sermon with this sentence: "If they charge you with billy clubs, cover your heads with your hands and arms, fall to the ground and curl up into a tight ball." Reverend Kellison was quoting one of the leaders of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, the Reverend C.T. Vivian. Reverend Vivian was training those newcomers who had recently arrived in Selma, Alabama, on how to respond in case of violence. Reverend Kellison was one of those newcomers. Reverend Kellison had flown on the previous Sunday afternoon. He had spent the night in the small apartment of an elderly African-American widow, and then that next Monday morning, March 15th, he found himself being schooled on self-protection. Reverend Kellison recollected, "At that moment, the sense of unreality vanished. I knew it was real." He continued, "Our second lesson would be to lock arms in squads of 5 to march the 10 blocks to the Dallas County Courthouse. If we were halted," they told us, "we were to stand facing the officers eye to eye." I don't mind admitting that I was ripped by fear. Now, what would inspire a white Unitarian Universalist minister from Cedar Rapids to travel nearly 900 miles to face potential bodily harm? The answer is James Reeb, who had also been to Selma. And what would inspire Reverend Reeb, a white Unitarian Universalist minister from the Boston area, to travel to Selma? The answer is a telegram from the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And what would inspire Dr. King to send a telegram about Selma? The answer is Jimmy Lee Jackson. And what would inspire Jimmy Lee Jackson to be associated with Selma? The answer is Joanne Blackman. We met her on the school bus in the Time for All Ages. Now, like Joanne Blackman, Jimmy Lee Jackson was inspired by civil rights organizers to participate in the voter registration campaign in his home state of Alabama. Jackson was a little bit older than Blackman. He was in his 20s when he was trying to register to vote. He lived in Marion, Alabama at the time, which is about 30 miles from Selma. He worked as a laborer and a woodcutter, earning $6 each day that he worked. Jackson was also active in his Baptist church and was its youngest deacon. You may already know that the civil rights movement of over 60 years ago included bus boycotts, freedom rides, sit-ins, and marches. While different communities used different tactics at different times, all of these were activities of nonviolent direct action. activities that were meant to disrupt the status quo in order to bring attention to grave injustices. In Alabama at this time, the nonviolent direct action chosen to wield moral pressure was to march, to try to register to vote, to get arrested, and to fill the jails, and to get the attention of the entire country through the national press. 26-year-old Jackson, who had been attending the organizing meetings for these actions, decided to participate in a night demonstration held in Marion on February 18th. Here's how the National Park Service tells this story. Tensions escalated on February 3rd, 1965, when Marion City Police arrested 700 black children for peacefully marching around the courthouse. Civil rights leader, the Reverend James Orange, was also jailed for contributing to the delinquency of minors. On the night of February 18th, 1965, about 500 people left Zion United Methodist Church in Marion and attempted a peaceful walk to the Perry County Jail, where Reverend Orange was being held. This demonstration was organized by SCLC activist Reverend C.T. Vivian, who had just been released from jail himself. Reverend Vivian and others had heard of threats being made towards Reverend Orange. In response, marchers planned to sing hymns and then return to the church. However, the police, saying they feared a jailbreak, confronted them with state troopers, and the police chief ordered the marchers to disperse. Following the chief's orders, the marchers stopped, and suddenly all the streetlights on the square went out. State troopers began swinging their clubs, causing panic among the marchers and the press who were there. Jackson and his mother sought refuge in a cafe where his grandfather, bloodied and beaten, joined them. When Jackson tried to leave to take his grandfather to the hospital, they were forcibly pushed back by club-swinging troopers and terrified marchers. In the chaos, police attacked Jackson, his mother, and his grandfather in the cafe kitchen. Now, despite Ms. Jackson's attempts to intervene, she too was beaten. When her son, Jimmy Lee Jackson, sought to protect his mother, a trooper threw him against a cigarette machine, and another trooper shot him twice in the abdomen. Though wounded, Jimmy Lee Jackson managed to escape the cafe, but troopers continued to beat him as he ran. He collapsed, and it took 2 hours before he reached the Good Samaritan Hospital in Selma, where he succumbed to his injuries 8 days later on February 26th. His death was the catalyst for the march now known as Bloody Sunday, which took place on March 7th, just 1.5 weeks after he died. Now, we could do a whole sermon on Bloody Sunday. That's a whole nother story, and I encourage you to look that up if you don't know that story already. There is information easily available on that. But as you can imagine from its name alone, it was horrific and terrorizing. Now, the day after Bloody Sunday, on Monday, March 8th, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. sent a telegram to many religious groups in North America, including the Unitarian Universalist Association in Boston. Dr. King's telegram said this: "In the vicious maltreatment of defenseless citizens of Selma, where old women and young children were gassed and clubbed at random, we have witnessed an eruption of the disease of racism which seeks to destroy all of America. No American is without responsibility. The people of Selma will struggle on for the soul of the nation, but it is fitting that all America help to bear the burden. I call, therefore, on clergy of all faiths, representative of every part of the country, to join me for a minister's march to Montgomery on Tuesday morning, March 9th. In this way, all America will testify to the fact that the struggle in Selma is for the survival of democracy everywhere in our land. So Unitarian Universalists from across the country, along with other people of faith traditions, responded to that telegram by showing up to march against injustice. One of those UUs was the Reverend James Reeb. Now, this book, which I found last week in our archives room downstairs, is entitled To Bear Witness. I have 4 copies here. You are welcome to explore it at your leisure. It is mostly told in photographs, and it was published in 1965 by the Department of Adult Programs for the UUA. So it just tells part of the story. It costs 75 cents, is what it says, so I found that fascinating. These are the few words it does use to tell the story of Reverend Reeb. The tragedy. On Tuesday, March 9th, after being turned back by Alabama's troopers on Route 80, Martin Luther King said, "Let's return to church and complete our fight in the courts." But Selma's time of trial was not over. That night, James Reeb, Orloff Miller, and Clark Olson ate a quiet supper at Walker's Cafe. As they walked away, a group of white men ran toward them shouting, "Hey," N-words. All 3 ministers were beaten from behind. Jim Reeb was clubbed across the side of his skull. He died 2 days later, on Thursday, March 11th. By the following Sunday afternoon, Reverend Kellison was on a plane to get to Selma so that he could attend the memorial service of his fellow minister. In his sermon, the following Sunday, March 21st, Reverend Kellison described what he had experienced. And I also have copies of his sermon if you want to read the entirety of it for yourself. The experiences of the previous Monday, March 15th, included not just a briefing on the techniques of nonviolence, and not just the memorial service inside Brown Chapel AME, where Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. delivered the eulogy for James Reeb, but also Reverend Kellison describes lots of restless and anxious waiting to see if they would be allowed to march to the courthouse. And yes, this is the courthouse that is the same building where little Joanne and her grandmother went up those steps and saw that closed for lunch sign in their face. Here are the words of Reverend Kellison again. After the memorial service, word spread rapidly that we could march quietly, without song, to the courthouse. We were instructed to remain orderly. The mood was subdued and solemn. People were streaming into the line from each side and from the rear, so it stretched farther and farther back. It was very quiet. After several false starts, we were finally underway, marching toward the courthouse in the dimming light of the sun and in the darkness of James Reeb's death. At the courthouse, the leaders of the march mounted the steps, crowding themselves tightly together. Dr. King spoke first, calling James Reeb a martyr to the cause of human rights. Speaking to the throng of about 4,000, Dr. King continued, asking that we all rededicate our lives to the ideals by which James Reeb had lived and for which he had died. Dr. King asked that we continue to work for civil rights. Several ministers in turn led prayers, and then the group broke into "We Shall Overcome," singing it softly, prayerfully, determinedly. As the music swelled, Reverend Kellison says, "I watched the setting sun fade. Oh, if only the monstrous wrongs of the past century could be dissolved in the coming night." The last strains of the music drifted into silence. A wreath in memory of the Reverend James Reeb was placed at the front of the door of the courthouse, and then the leaders took their places at the head of the column to lead us back. We had reached the courthouse, the objective of our march. But did we reach the deeper goal of the march? Did we move forward the ideal which says that America is for all her children? I fervently hope so, he concludes, because it is right and just and decent. "60 years have nearly passed since then, and there is still much to do to make our country right and just and decent. Though much has changed, there are still calls for justice that need our attention and participation." Now, I'm keenly aware that tomorrow is a big day. We will experience both the inauguration of an incoming administration which threatens the human and civil rights for which many have struggled and died, and we will also honor the Reverend King's life and legacy through words and songs and actions. And so we turn now to the question before us: how might we focus our actions for greater justice in our world today? I have just a few ideas. Number one, go downstairs and find the room that this congregation has named after Reverend Kellison. You'll see the little nameplate outside the door. Offer up some words of gratitude for his service. Draw strength from his example of finding the courage to answer the call of love. Be inspired to act in the face of fear. Idea number 2. Join me and other folks involved with the Interfaith Alliance of Iowa for a weekly discussion about a book entitled "Anti-Racism as a Daily Practice: Refuse Shame, Change White Communities, Help Create a Just World." You can't probably really read that tiny print, but it says we meet on Zoom every Wednesday morning at 8 a.m. Number 3, attend the upcoming fundraiser for the Bethel AME Church here in Cedar Rapids. The Allen Lincoln Douglas Banquet will take place on Saturday, February 15th from 12 noon to 2 p.m. This is a way to decrease the wealth disparities in our city while building relationships and learning something new. If none of those work for you, how about check out the walls in our own church and see what inspires you. Perhaps it's attending the discussions about authentic selves in preparation for taking action to protect the lives and rights of all trans people. Perhaps you want to say gay, protect trans kids, read banned books, teach all history, and above all, show love. Now, I have no doubt that the next 4 days, 4 years, heck, 4 decades will try our patience, test our resolve, and challenge our commitment to live our Unitarian Universalist values of love and justice. But when you feel despair, remember, we have one another. For encouragement and accountability, we have our values calling us again and again back to love, and there will be opportunities to take collective action. And always, always remember, we also have the stories of those who came before to show us the way. May we be so, and blessed be.
Each week, we participate as a community in the spiritual practice of generosity. The offering we collect today will go to support the mission of People's Church, which is leading compassionate lives through spiritual growth and just action. You have the option of putting cash or a check into the offering plate being passed here in the sanctuary, or you can mail a check to the church, donate online at peoplesuu.org, or use the Vanco mobile app. And now, in a spirit of generosity and compassion, this morning's offering will now be gratefully given and lovingly received.
Thank you for all, and thank you for all the ways that you embody generosity. May we be transformed by our giving, and may the world be transformed by our gifts. As we enter into a time of prayerful meditation, I invite you to silently name your great joys and deep sorrows. For those who would like to come forward come forward in silence, you have two options to symbolize the stirrings of your heart. You can choose either a candle to place in the sand or a stone to place in our sacred water, which was gathered as a community back in September and holds a special place in our life of the congregation. Emily will start by lighting one candle. This is a candle for the ceasefire in Gaza. May this movement be in the right direction. And now I invite all who would like to please come forward down the center aisle and return to your seats by the side aisles. Now, I invite you to join me in a spirit of prayer and meditation as you are willing and able. Spirit of love and justice, we give thanks for your tenacious presence in the yesterdays of those who came before us. We feel your call to greater love and justice in the joys and sorrows of our world today. And we ask that the tomorrows of our collective action be ever guided by the love and justice of our growing faith. May it be so, and may we be so. Our closing hymn today is our hymn of the month, number 346, Come Sing a Song With Me. Now, as we sing this final hymn together, I invite you to imagine that you are a freedom fighter, and you're encouraging your friend to join the movement. So we'll only sing 3 verses today, and I've modified the words in order to honor those who marched from Selma to Montgomery in late March 1965. Please rise in all the ways that we do to join our voices in song. Come sing a song with me. Come sing a song with me. Come sing a song with me, that I might know your mind. And I'll give you hope when hope is hard to find. And I'll give a song of love and a rose in the winter time. Come march and reign with me. Come march and reign with me. Come march and reign with me, that I might know your mind. And I'll bring you hope when hope is hard to find. And I'll bring a song of love and a rose in the winter time. Come dream a dream with me. Come dream a dream with me. Come dream a dream with me, that I might know your mind. And I'll bring you hope when hope is hard to find. And I'll bring a song of love and a rose in the winter time. You may be seated.
All are invited to read aloud our words to extinguish this chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Now, before we enjoy one last gift of music, I offer you these words from the Reverend C.T. Vivian. He said, "Everything we did in the movement was spiritual. That's why it was nonviolent. The movement was truly a religious experience. People need to know that. So go in peace, taking the spirit of love and justice with you, always knowing that you have enough and that you are enough. Blessed be, and amen."
Burn, the swimmers churn, peace may the generals learn when I'm far away. Well, may the world go, the world go, the world go. Well, may the world go when I'm far away. Sweet may the fiddle sound, the guitar play, the old hoedown, dancers dancing round and round when I'm far away. Well, may the world go, the world go, the world go. Well, may the world go when I'm far away.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.